Commander Jake Morrison walked through the busy halls of New Geneva Space Station. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. He carried a data pad in his left hand and rubbed his tired eyes with his right. It was early morning, but the station never slept. Ships came and went at all hours. Jake had been running the repair bays for 3 years now. He thought he knew everything about fixing spaceships. But today, something felt different. Admiral Brooks had called him to her office for a special meeting. Jake did not know why. The Admiral's office was on the top level of the station. Big windows showed the stars outside. Jake could see 2 alien ships waiting in the docking area. One was long and silver. The other was round and blue. Both ships looked much more advanced than human vessels. "Sit down, Jake," Admiral Brooks said. She was a tall woman with gray hair and kind eyes. "I have new orders for you." Jake sat in the chair across from her desk. "What kind of orders?" Admiral Brooks handed him a thick folder. "The Galactic Council has made a decision. From now on, all alien ships in this sector must come to human repair bays for maintenance and repairs." Jake opened the folder and looked at the first page. His eyes grew wide. "All of them? But why?" "That's what I want you to find out," the Admiral said. "This order came from the highest levels of the Council. They're paying us very well for this service." Jake flipped through more pages. He saw lists of alien species names he could barely pronounce. Zephyrians, Nexari, Vorthans, Helios Federation members. All of them had to bring their ships to human. "Mechanics, this doesn't make sense," Jake said. "Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours. Why would they need us to fix their ships?" Admiral Brooks leaned back in her chair. "That's exactly what I thought. But the orders are clear. Every alien captain who comes here asks for human technicians specifically. They won't let their own people work on the ships." Jake stood up and walked to the window. He watched as another alien ship approached the station. It was huge and had strange lights blinking all over its hull. "Have you asked them why?" "I've tried," the Admiral said. "They always give the same answer. They say humans have special skills that other species don't have. But they never explain what those skills are." Jake turned back to face her. "What do you want me to do?" "Run the operation," she said. "But keep your eyes open. Watch how the aliens act. Listen to what they say. Try to figure out why they need." "You so badly." Jake nodded. "I'll do my best." He left the Admiral's office and took the elevator down to the repair levels. The doors opened to show a busy workspace. Human technicians moved between different alien ships. Some ships were small and fast. Others were massive cargo vessels. All of them looked strange and wonderful. Jake found his chief engineer, Lisa Park, working under a red alien ship. Only her legs stuck out from beneath the hull. Sparks flew from her welding tool. "Lisa," Jake called out. "Can you come here for a minute?" Lisa slid out from under the ship. She was a small woman with short black hair and grease on her hands. "What's up, boss?" Jake showed her the folder. "We just got new orders. All alien ships in this sector have to come here for repairs." Lisa wiped her hands on a rag. "All of them? That's going to keep us busy." "Very busy," Jake said. "But I want to know something. Have you noticed anything strange about the alien customers?" Lisa thought for a moment. "Now that you mention it, yeah, they always watch us work. Like they're studying what we do. And they ask a lot of questions about our methods." "What kind of questions?" "Weird ones," Lisa said. "Like, why do we use hand tools when we could use machines? Why do we look at problems from different angles? Why do we try things that their computers say won't work?" Jake found this interesting. "And what do you tell them?" Lisa shrugged. "I tell them that's just how we work. We learn to fix things with whatever we had available. If something's broken, we figure out how to make it work again." Jake walked around the repair bay. He saw his team working on 5 different alien ships. Each ship came from a different species. Each one had different technology, but all of them were being fixed by human hands. At the first ship, he watched mechanic Bob Chun replacing a power coupling. The alien part was designed to fit perfectly into a specific slot, but Bob was using a human-made adapter to make it work. Better. At the second ship, engineer Mary Johnson was fixing a navigation system. She had tools from 3 different manufacturers spread around her workspace. None of them were made for alien technology, but she was making them work anyway. The third ship belonged to a tall, blue-skinned alien captain. He stood nearby, watching human technician Paul Davis work on his engine. The captain looked fascinated by Paul's methods. "Excuse me," Jake said to the captain. "I'm Commander Morrison. Is there a problem with your ship?" The captain turned to face him. He had large, dark eyes and spoke in perfect English. "No problem, Commander. Your engineer is doing excellent work. Better than my own people could do." "Better how?" Jake asked. The captain pointed to Paul's work. "He sees things we cannot see. He finds solutions we would never think of. Your people have a gift." Jake wanted to ask more questions, but the captain walked away. Jake made a mental note to talk to him later. He continued his tour of the repair bay. At every ship, he saw the same thing: human workers doing their jobs, while alien crews watched with great interest. The aliens seemed amazed by the most basic human repair techniques. At the end of the day, Jake sat in his office and looked at the work reports. His team had fixed 17 alien ships. Each repair was successful. Each alien captain seemed happy with the work, but Jake still had no idea why the aliens needed human help so badly. He picked up his data pad and started making notes. Tomorrow, he would begin his real investigation. He would watch more carefully. He would ask better questions. He would figure out what made human repair work so special. Outside his window, more alien ships approached the station. They formed a long line, waiting their turn for human repairs. Jake had never seen so many different species in one place. Whatever the reason for their visits, Jake knew his life was about to become much more interesting. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations were depending on him and his team. Now he just had to figure out why. Jake turned off his office lights and headed home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and maybe some answers. He was ready for both. The next morning, Jake arrived at the repair bay early. He wanted to watch his team work without them knowing he was studying them. He found a spot on the upper observation deck where he could see everything below. The first alien ship of the day belonged to the Vorthans. It was a massive gray vessel with smooth curves and no visible weapons. Captain Kelth, a tall alien with 4 arms and green skin, stood next to his ship. He looked worried. "The quantum drive is making strange noises," Captain Kelth told Lisa Park. "Our engineers checked it yesterday. They said everything was fine, but I can still hear the sounds." Lisa nodded and grabbed her toolkit. "Let's take a look." Jake watched as Lisa and her assistant, Danny Rodriguez, opened the ship's engine compartment. The quantum drive was a complex piece of technology that Jake barely understood. It used energy from another dimension to power the ship's faster-than-light travel. Lisa climbed inside the compartment with a flashlight. Danny stayed outside, monitoring the ship's computer systems. "The computer shows all systems working normally," Danny called out. "That's what our people said too," Captain Kelth replied. "But something is wrong. I can feel it." Lisa spent 20 minutes looking at the drive system. She ran her hands along the metal surfaces. She pressed her ear against different parts of the engine. Jake thought she looked like a doctor examining a patient. "Found it," Lisa said finally. She pointed to A small section of the drive housing. There's a hairline crack right here. Captain Kelf moved closer to look. I don't see anything. It's very small, Lisa said. But it's there. Danny, can you run a microfracture scan on this section? Danny connected his scanner to the drive. Housing. The device beeped and showed readings on its screen. You're right, Lisa. There's a stress fracture. It's only 2 millimeters long, but it's growing. Captain Kelf looked shocked. That's impossible. Our most advanced scanners examined this drive yesterday. They found no problems. Human eyes are different, Lisa said simply. We see things that machines sometimes miss. Jake leaned forward on the observation deck. This was interesting. How could human eyes detect something that advanced alien technology could not? Lisa and Danny worked for 3 hours to repair the crack. They used a special welding technique that Jake had never seen before. Lisa seemed to know exactly how to fix the problem without referring to any technical manuals. When they finished, Captain Kelf ran his own tests on the drive. The strange noises were gone. The system worked perfectly. How did you know to look there? Captain Kelf asked Lisa. Experience, Lisa said. I've seen this kind of damage before. Metal gets tired. From stress, it shows signs before it breaks completely. But your scanner didn't detect it either, Captain Kelf pointed out. Danny shrugged. Our equipment isn't as good as yours. We learned to trust our eyes and hands more than machines. After Captain Kelf left, Jake came down to talk to Lisa and Danny. That was impressive work, Jake said. But I'm curious about something. How did you really know where to look? Lisa wiped her hands on her coveralls. It wasn't magic, if that's what you're thinking. I just looked at the whole system and tried to understand how it worked. The crack was in a place where the metal would be under the most stress. But their scanners should have found it, Jake said. Should have, Danny agreed. But they didn't. Maybe their scanners are too advanced. Maybe they only look for specific types of damage. Jake thought about this. What do you mean? Well, Danny said, their technology is designed to find known problems. But this crack was in an unusual place. Their scanners probably weren't programmed to look there. Jake spent the rest of the morning watching his team work on other ships. Each repair seemed to follow the same pattern. The aliens would describe a problem. Human technicians would find the real cause. The aliens would be surprised by what the humans discovered at lunch. Jake sat with his senior staff in the stations. Cafeteria. He wanted to discuss what he had observed. I've been watching our repair work, Jake said. I'm starting to see a pattern. What kind of pattern? Asked Betty Johnson, his senior engineer. The aliens always seem surprised by our methods, Jake said. They act like we're doing something they can't do themselves. Carl Thompson, another senior engineer, nodded. I've noticed that too. Yesterday, a Nexari captain asked me why I used 3 different diagnostic tools instead of just one. What did you tell him? Jake asked. I said that different tools show different things, Carl replied. One tool might miss something that another tool catches. And what did he say? He said his people always use the most advanced tool available. They don't see the point in using older or simpler equipment. Jake found this fascinating. So they rely completely on their best technology? Seems like it, Carl said. But sometimes, the best technology isn't the right technology for the job. Betty leaned forward. I had a similar experience last week. A Zephyrian engineer watched me repair her ship's life support system. She kept asking why I was using parts from different manufacturers. What did you tell her? I explained that. Each part had different strengths, Betty said. By combining them, I could create a system that was better than the original design. And her response? She said her people would never mix different technologies. They believe each system should be pure and perfect. Jake thought about this conversation for the rest of the day. It seemed like the aliens had a completely different approach to problem solving than humans did. That evening, Jake went to the station's library. He looked up information about human engineering history. He wanted to understand why human methods were so different from alien approaches. What he learned surprised him. Throughout human history, people had always worked with limited resources. They had to make do with whatever materials and tools they had available. This led to a culture of improvisation and adaptation. Other species, according to the Galactic databases, had developed their technology over thousands of years. They had perfected their methods until they achieved near-perfect efficiency. But this perfection came with a cost. They had lost the ability to think creatively about problems. Jake realized that human primitive technology might actually be an advantage. Because humans had never achieved perfection, they had maintained their ability to adapt and improvise. The next day, Jake decided to test his theory. He asked Lisa to examine a perfectly functioning alien ship. He wanted to see if she could find any problems that the aliens had missed. Lisa spent 2 hours looking at the ship. She found 6 minor issues that could become major problems in the future. The alien captain was amazed. His own engineers had declared the ship to be in perfect condition. "How do you see these things?" the captain asked Lisa. "I don't know," Lisa admitted. "I just look at everything and try to understand how it all works together. Sometimes I notice things that seem out of place." Jake began to understand why the Galactic Council had made their decision. Human repair skills weren't just different from alien abilities. They were actually superior in some ways, but Jake still wanted to know more. He decided to dig deeper into the mystery. Tomorrow, he would start asking more direct questions about why aliens needed human help so badly. As he walked through the repair bay that evening, Jake felt proud of his team. They were doing something that the galaxy's most advanced civilizations couldn't do for themselves. They were solving problems that shouldn't have solutions. Jake looked forward to learning exactly what made human engineering so special. The answer would change everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. Jake decided it was time to get real answers. He had watched his team work for weeks. He had seen them solve problems that alien technology couldn't handle. Now he needed to understand why this was happening. He started by talking to the alien captains who visited the station regularly. Captain Zindar of the Helios Federation was his first choice. The tall, blue-skinned alien had brought his ship to the human repair base 12 times in the past year. Jake found Captain Zindar in the station's waiting area. He was reading something on a small device that glowed with soft light. "Captain Zindar," Jake said, sitting down next to him. "Do you have a few minutes to talk?" The alien looked up from his device. "Of course, Commander Morrison. What can I do for you?" Jake chose his words carefully. "I'm curious about something. Your people have technology that's far more advanced than ours. Why do you always bring your ship here for repairs?" Captain Zindar was quiet for a moment. He seemed to be thinking about how to answer. "Your people have abilities that we do not," he said finally. "You solve problems in ways that we cannot understand. Can you give me an example?" Captain Zindar looked around to make sure no one else was listening. Then he leaned closer to Jake. 2 years ago, my ship's life support system failed. He sighed quietly. "We were 3 days from the nearest Helios repair station. My crew was running out of air." Jake listened carefully. "We called for help," Captain Zindar continued. "A human ship answered our distress signal. They didn't have the right parts to fix our system. According to our calculations, we were going to die. But you didn't die," Jake said. "No, your engineer, Betty Johnson, came aboard our ship. She looked at our life support system for 1 hour. Then she did something impossible." "What did she do?" "She took parts from our food preparation unit, our entertainment system, and our emergency lighting. She connected them to our life support in a way that violated every engineering principle. We know it should not have worked. Jake smiled. But it did work. It worked perfectly, Captain Zendar said. Better than our original system. The hybrid solution she created was more efficient and more reliable than what we had before. Jake was starting to understand. And your own engineers couldn't have done this? Never, Captain Zendar said firmly. Our engineers are trained to use proper parts and follow established procedures. They would never think to combine systems that were designed for different purposes. Why not? Because we are taught that each system has a specific function. Mixing different technologies is considered dangerous and unstable. Jake thought about this, but Betty's solution worked. Yes, but it should not have worked. That is what makes your people so valuable. You do things that should be impossible, and somehow you make them work. Over the next few days, Jake collected similar stories from other alien captains. Each one had examples of human engineers solving problems in ways that defied alien logic. A Zephyrian captain told him about how human mechanic Paul Davis had fixed a crystal-powered engine using spare parts from a combustion engine. The two technologies were completely incompatible, but Paul had found a way to make them work together. A Nexari captain described how human engineer Mary Johnson had repaired their ship's computer by connecting it to a simple human calculator. The combination created a hybrid system that was more flexible than the original. Jake began to see a pattern. Human engineers didn't just fix problems. They improved systems by combining different technologies in unexpected ways. He decided to test this theory. He gathered his senior staff for a meeting. I want to try an experiment, Jake told them. I want to see if we can deliberately improve an alien system using our methods. What kind of system? Asked Lisa. Communications, Jake said. The Vorthans have been having trouble with their long-range communication array. They say it works fine, but the signal is weaker than it should be. Betty Johnson raised her hand. I looked at their system yesterday. It's incredibly advanced, but it's also very specialized. It can only communicate with other Vorthan ships. What if we could make it communicate with any ship? Jake asked. That would be useful, Carl Thompson said. But their system is designed specifically for Vorthan technology. I don't think it's possible to change it. Let's find out, Jake said. The next day, Jake's team began working on the Vorthan communication system. Captain Kelth gave them permission to experiment, but he looked worried. Please be careful, Captain Kelth said. This system took our best engineers 50 years to develop. Lisa and Danny started by studying how the system worked. They found that it used a very specific frequency that only Vorthan receivers could detect. What if we added a frequency converter? Lisa suggested. We could make it broadcast on multiple frequencies at the same time. Where would we get a frequency converter? Annie asked. We could build one, Lisa said. I have some spare parts. From a human radio system. Captain Kelth looked shocked. You want to connect a primitive radio to our advanced communication array? Why not? Lisa said. If it works, your system will be able to talk to any ship in the galaxy. Jake watched as his team worked. They took apart a human radio and connected key components to the Vorthan system. According to everything Jake knew about engineering, this should not work, but it did work. The hybrid system could now communicate with ships from any species. The signal was actually stronger than the original system. Captain Kelth ran test after test. Every test showed that the modified system was better than the original. How is this possible? Captain Kelth asked. I don't know, Lisa admitted. We just tried things until something worked. Jake realized that this was the key to human engineering success. While other species spent years perfecting single approaches, humans were willing to experiment with combinations that seemed impossible. Evening, Jake called Admiral Brooks to report his findings. "So you think human engineering is superior to alien technology?" she asked. "Not superior," Jake said. "Different. We approach problems differently than they do. We're willing to try things that seem impossible. And this is why they need our help. Yes, their technology is more advanced, but it's also more limited. They've perfected their methods so much that they can't adapt to new situations." Admiral Brooks was quiet for a moment. "This is important information, Jake. Keep investigating. I want to know everything about why aliens need human repair work." Jake hung up the phone and looked out at the repair bay. His team was working on 8 different alien ships. Each repair was unique. Each solution was improvised from available materials. He was beginning to understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology. It was their willingness to try new approaches and combine different ideas in unexpected ways. Galaxy's most advanced civilizations had become so specialized that they had lost the ability to innovate. They could perfect existing technology, but they couldn't create new solutions to unexpected problems. Humans, on the other hand, had never stopped experimenting. They had never stopped trying impossible things. And that made them invaluable to a galaxy that had forgotten how to innovate. Jake looked forward to learning more about this phenomenon. He suspected that the full truth would be even more surprising than what he had discovered so far. 3 weeks later, Jake got his chance to learn the full truth. A massive Nexari vessel arrived at the station with critical damage. The ship was enormous, built from metal and strange glowing circuits. Parts of its hull were badly damaged. Nexari were known throughout the galaxy as the most logical and systematic engineers. They had integrated their bodies with machines thousands of years ago. They were half organic, half computer. Their technology was considered perfect by galactic standards. Engineer Prime Zexalon led the Nexari delegation. He was tall and thin, with metal implants covering half of his face. His voice sounded like a computer when he spoke. "Our central processor has been damaged," Zexalon told Jake. "This is a critical emergency. Without the processor, our ship cannot function." Jake looked at the damaged ship. "What caused the damage?" "We encountered an energy storm near the Gamma sector," Zexalon explained. "The storm produced electromagnetic pulses that our shields could not block. The pulses damaged our processor in ways we have never seen before." "Have your people tried to repair it?" "Of course. We have spent 48 hours attempting repairs. Our best engineers cannot solve this problem. The damage is too unusual." Jake called his team together. "This is going to be our biggest challenge yet. The Nexari are the most advanced engineers in the galaxy. If they can't fix their own ship, it must be a very difficult problem." Lisa Park looked excited. "I've always wanted to work on Nexari technology. Their systems are supposed to be perfect." "That might be the problem," Jake said. "Perfect systems might not be good at handling imperfect situations." Jake's team spent the first day just trying to understand the Nexari processor. It was unlike any technology they had ever seen. The device was part computer, part living organism, part energy field. It made decisions using logic that was beyond human understanding. "I can't figure out how this thing works," Danny Rodriguez admitted. "It's like trying to understand 1,000 different machines at the same time." Carl Thompson was studying the damage patterns. The energy storm didn't just break the processor. It changed how the processor thinks. It's trying to solve problems using methods that don't exist. Jake found this interesting. "What do you mean?" "The processor is designed to be logical and systematic," Carl explained. "But the storm damage made it try to be creative and random. It's trying to be something it was never designed to be." Engineer Prime Zexalon watched the humans work. He seemed fascinated by their methods. "Your people approach problems very differently than we do," he told Jake. How so? You do not follow systematic procedures. You examine the problem from many angles. You try solutions that our logic says cannot work. Jake nodded. That's how we were taught to solve problems. If one approach doesn't work, we try something else. We cannot do this, Zexalon said. Our minds are integrated with our computers. We can only think in logical patterns. When logic fails, we have no other options. On the second day, Carl made a breakthrough. He discovered that the storm damage had created a feedback loop in the processor. The system was trying to solve the same problem over and over, but it kept reaching the same failed conclusion. We need to break the loop, Carl told the team, but I don't know how. The processor won't accept any input that doesn't follow Nexari. Logic patterns. Lisa had an idea. What if we don't try to fix the processor directly? What if we give it a different problem to solve? That doesn't make sense, Danny said. We need to fix the damage, not create new problems. But maybe the processor can fix itself if we give it the right challenge, Lisa explained. Sometimes, the best way to solve a problem is to approach it from a completely different direction. Jake thought about this. What kind of problem were you thinking of? Something that requires creative thinking, Lisa said. Something that can't be solved with pure logic. The team spent hours trying to figure out how to implement Lisa's idea. Finally, Carl came up with a solution. What if we connect the processor to a human puzzle? He suggested. Something that requires intuition and creativity to solve. Like, what? A crossword puzzle, Carl said. Or a riddle. Something that doesn't have a logical answer. Zexalon looked confused. This approach violates every principle of Nexari engineering. You cannot fix a computer by giving it games to play. It's worth trying, Jake said. If logical approaches aren't working, maybe we need to try something illogical. The team connected the damaged processor to a simple human puzzle game. The game required creative thinking and pattern recognition. It had no single correct answer. At first, nothing happened. The processor tried to solve the puzzle using pure logic. It failed repeatedly. But then something unexpected occurred. The processor began to adapt. It started trying different approaches. It began thinking in ways that were not purely logical. As the processor learned to think creatively, it began to understand its own damage. It started developing new solutions to fix itself. Within 6 hours, the processor had completely repaired itself. It was working better than ever before. Zexalon ran diagnostic tests on the repaired system. This is impossible, he said. The processor is now 23% more efficient than it was before the damage. How is that possible? Jake asked. The creative thinking patterns it learned from your puzzle have improved its problem-solving abilities. Zexalon explained. It can now approach problems from multiple angles instead of just one. Jake realized that they had done more than just fix the Nexari ship. They had improved it by teaching it to think more like a human. Your people have given our processor something we never could, Zexalon said. You have given it the ability to think creatively. Jake was starting to understand the full scope of what made human engineering special. You mean that creativity is something your people have lost? Not lost, Zexalon corrected. We never had it. We perfected our logical thinking over thousands of years. We eliminated all inefficient thought patterns. But we also eliminated the ability to think in new ways. And that's why you need human repair work. Yes, your people have preserved something that we gave up long ago. You can still think thoughts that have never been thought before. You can still solve problems that have never been solved. Jake looked around the repair bay. His team was celebrating their success. They had fixed the most advanced technology in the galaxy using methods that the galaxy's best engineers said were impossible. All the galactic species have the same problem, Zexalon continued. We have all become so specialized that we can only think in predetermined ways. We can perfect existing solutions, but we cannot create new ones. But humans can? Humans must, Zexalon said. Your technology is less advanced, so you are forced to be creative. You must find new ways to solve problems, because your existing methods are not sufficient. Jake finally understood. Humanity's technological weakness was actually their greatest strength. Because they couldn't rely on perfect systems, they had to maintain the ability to adapt and improvise. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations had traded their creativity for perfection. They had gained incredible technological power, but they had lost the ability to handle truly unprecedented challenges. Humans had never achieved such perfection. They had always been forced to make do with whatever they had available. This had kept their minds flexible and creative. That's why the Galactic Council chose human repair bays, Jake said. Yes, Zexalon confirmed. Your people are the only ones who can still think outside the patterns that define our civilizations. You are the only ones who can solve problems that our perfect systems cannot handle. Jake watched as the repaired Nexari ship prepared to leave the station. He felt proud of his team, but also amazed by what he had learned. Humanity wasn't just participating in galactic civilization. They were essential to it. Their imperfect technology and creative thinking were keeping the galaxies perfect. Systems running. Jake realized that he had discovered something that would change how humans saw themselves in the galaxy. They weren't the primitive newcomers trying to catch up to advanced civilizations. They were the problem solvers that those civilizations desperately needed. Jake decided it was time to share what he had learned. He called a meeting with representatives from all the major galactic species. The meeting room at New Geneva Station was filled with aliens of every shape and size. Captain Kelf of the Vorthans sat next to Engineer Prime Zexalon of the Nexari. Captain Zendar of the Helios Federation was there, along with delegates from the Zephyrians, the Quantum Collective, and 12 other species. Admiral Brooks joined the meeting by video link from Earth. She wanted to hear Jake's findings directly. Thank you all for coming, Jake began. I've spent the last 2 months studying why alien ships are sent only to human repair bays. I think I found the answer. Jake activated a holographic display that showed repair statistics from the past year. Human repair bays have a 97% success rate for alien ships. Other species have a 78% success rate when repairing their own vessels. More importantly, ships repaired by humans have 60% fewer problems in the following year. A Zephyrian delegate raised her crystal hand. We do not understand how this is possible. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. That's exactly the point, Jake said. Our technology is primitive, so we've learned to be creative. We've learned to make things work even when they shouldn't. Jake changed the display to show examples of human repair work. When we fix a ship, we don't just replace broken parts. We look at the entire system and try to understand how it works. Then we find ways to make it work better. But this approach is inefficient, said a Nexari engineer. It takes longer than following established procedures. It takes longer initially. Jake agreed. But it creates solutions that last longer and work better. More importantly, it creates solutions that can handle unexpected problems. Captain Kelth spoke up. Commander Morrison, are you saying that our advanced technology is somehow inferior to your primitive methods? Not inferior, Jake said. Limited. Your technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly specialized. You've perfected your systems so much that they can't adapt to new situations. Jake showed them the results of the Nexari processor repair. When we fixed your ship, Zexalon, we didn't just repair the damage. We taught your processor to think creatively. It's now more efficient than it was before the damage occurred. How is this possible? Asked a Quantum Collective representative. Because we gave it something that your perfect systems lack, Jake explained. We gave it the ability to think in ways that violate your engineering principles. Commander Helen Wright, Jake's superior, appeared on another video screen. She had been listening to the entire presentation from Earth headquarters. What Jake has discovered, Helen said, is that humanity's role in the galactic community is not what we originally thought. The alien representatives turned their attention to the screen. For 50 years, we believed we were the junior partners in this relationship, Helen continued. We thought we were learning from more advanced civilizations. But Jake's research said the opposite is true. Jake nodded. Every galactic species has optimized their technology over thousands of years. You've eliminated inefficiencies, removed uncertainties, and created perfect systems. But you've also eliminated something essential. What have we eliminated? Asked Captain Zendar. The ability to handle the impossible, Jake said. When your perfect systems encounter problems they weren't designed for, they can't adapt. They can only fail. Jake brought up a new display showing human engineering history. Humans never achieved that level of perfection. We've always had to work with limited resources and imperfect tools. This forced us to become masters of improvisation. Lisa Park, who had been invited to the meeting, stood up. If I may add something, she said. When we repair alien ships, we don't follow manuals or procedures. We look at the problem and ask ourselves, how can we make this work with what we have? Available? This approach seems chaotic and unscientific, said the Zephyrian delegate. It is chaotic, Lisa agreed. But chaos can solve problems that order cannot. When everything is perfect and predictable, you can't handle the imperfect and unpredictable. Carl Thompson joined the discussion. Last week, I fixed a quantum collective ship using parts from a food replicator, a lighting system, and a waste recycling unit. According to every engineering principle I know, that repair should have been impossible. Yet it worked, said the quantum collective representative quietly. It worked because I didn't know it was impossible, Carl said. I just saw 3 systems that could be connected in a useful way. Jake realized this was the perfect moment to reveal the most important part of his discovery. This is why the Galactic Council chose human repair bays. It wasn't because we're better engineers. It's because we're the only species that still thinks like engineers. The room fell silent. Jake could see that his words had impact on every alien present. Engineer Prime Zexalon spoke first. Are you suggesting that we have forgotten how to truly engineer solutions? I'm suggesting that you've perfected yourselves beyond the point of adaptation, Jake said. You can execute existing solutions flawlessly. But when you encounter truly new problems, you need someone who can think of truly new solutions. Admiral Brooks leaned forward on her screen. Jake, can you summarize what this means for humanity's role in the galaxy? Jake looked around the room at all the alien representatives. It means we're not the primitive newcomers trying to catch up. We're the problem solvers that keep galactic civilization running. He activated a final display showing repair requests. From the past year, every major species in the galaxy depends on human repair work. Not because our technology is better, but because our thinking is different. Captain Kelf asked, what happens if human engineers start thinking like us? What if you become as specialized and perfect as we are? Jake smiled. That's something we'll have to be careful about. But I don't think it will happen soon. Humans have a talent for creating new problems, even as we solve old ones. We'll probably stay chaotic and imperfect for a long time. Helen Wright spoke from her screen. Earth's leadership has decided to expand our engineering training programs. We want to make sure we preserve the qualities that make human engineering special. What qualities are those? Asked the Zephyrian delegate. Curiosity, creativity, and willingness to try things that shouldn't work, Helen said. We're going to teach our engineers to embrace imperfection instead of avoiding it. Jake stood up to conclude the presentation. I want to thank all of you for helping me understand this mystery. Your willingness to share your experiences made this discovery possible. Captain Zendar stood as well. We should be thanking you, Commander Morrison. You have helped us understand why we need human repair work so badly. And you've helped us understand our true value to galactic civilization, Jake replied. After the meeting ended, Jake walked through the repair bay one more time. His team was working on 15 different alien ships. Each repair was unique. Each solution was improvised from available materials. But now Jake understood what he was really seeing. He was watching the galaxy's most valuable resource at work. Human creativity and adaptability were keeping the most advanced civilizations in the universe functioning. Jake found Lisa working under a small quantum collective scout ship. How's it going? He asked. Pretty good, Lisa said from under the ship. Their quantum stabilizer was acting up. I think I can fix it with some spare parts from their food synthesizer. That makes no sense at all, Jake said, laughing. I know, Lisa replied. That's what makes it fun. Jake walked to his office and sat down at his desk. He started writing his final report for Earth Command. The report would change how humanity saw itself in the galaxy. For the first time since joining the galactic community, humans could be proud of what they brought to the table. They weren't the backward species trying to learn from their betters. They were the essential component that kept everything else working. Jake looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien ships were breaking down in ways their perfect systems couldn't handle. And those ships would come to human repair bays, because humans still remembered how to fix things that couldn't be fixed. Jake smiled and continued writing his report. Tomorrow, he would start training a new group of human engineers. He would teach them that their imperfection was their greatest strength. He would show them that being primitive was exactly what the galaxy needed. The universe was vast and full of wonders. But the most wonderful thing of all was that humans had found their place in it. They were the fixers, the improvisers, the ones who made impossible things work. And that was exactly what they were meant to be.